Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some malicious compliance. Our first story today comes to us from Jasper4505. My former employers lost their client and business because of me. Let's jump right in. A few years back in 2018, I had decided to switch employers. I worked from home as a chat support specialist and eventually a supervisor for a major tech company. I had decided to switch to a small-time customer support agency that was just starting a new chat team. They had better pay and benefits because they only had a small number of employees compared to the former. The description of the position I was to be hired for was another salary-based supervisory role for the brand new chat team for the client. I'd basically be doing the same things as my previous job, but also spearheading this small department while simultaneously training other coworkers with zero experience in chat support. This was going extremely well, and our client was ecstatic at the results of the new chat program. They had personally sent me an email over my progress. The company I left was, and still is, known worldwide to have the friendliest and most professional customer support out of any other company, and so it was easy to apply what I learned to this new position. After about 2 months of doing this, the person I directly reported to, the regional supervisor, was retiring. Our new regional came in and was friendly at first, but decided that he didn't want to waste his time on chat and directed me to phone support, which was not in my job description nor what I was hired for by any means. He cited that the client was unhappy with the results, which was in stark contrast to what they had told me directly. Even after forwarding him the email, he was still not doing anything about it. So I complied. It took just 2 days for the client to have reached out to me personally. After explaining to them the situation, they were livid. My new regional had lied to me about his contact with the client and had essentially ignored our client's attempt to contact him about the issue. I had continued to work in the supervisory role for phones until the first quality review of my employees came up. For team leads and direct call center employees both, this is where I review their interactions and grade them based off their strengths and weaknesses. Our regional wanted me to even include the chat support team, who were neither hired or trained for phones. He refused to give them training. On every single employee who was hired for chat support, I had filed all of them as unable to be completed, and in my notations, I included that this is not the position they were hired or trained for, and thus an analysis could not be accurately completed. And I sent this to both the regional manager and our client as well, since at this point I had a direct contact email. I was responded to the same day by whoever it is within our client who oversees all of outsourcing. The only words I got back were, "We will deal with this." The client held a meeting the following week with my employers. I'm not sure what was said in that meeting, but word got back to everyone that the client had dropped us for breach of contract. Because this was a small office and our company's only client for several years, this was bad. After that, me and my team were offered a position with the company directly, doing the things we were hired to do, but required us to move about 4 hours north. So, unfortunately, none of us decided to accept that offer. I collected unemployment until I found a new job. Now the company is out of business and is currently being sued by some of the other employees for unpaid wages. This new case has been going on since 2019. A lot of managers out there just aren't qualified for their jobs. They got there by being somebody's friend or just BSing their way to the top. I think in most cases, managers should never be hired from outside of the company. You promote your good workers who actually know the positions, and then you have managers who actually know what they're managing. But that hardly ever happens. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our next story today comes to us from Tiger Ruler 711. Make her work sick? How about nobody works at all? Let's jump right in. Background: I've worked as a temp in construction for almost 3 years. I've had offers of direct employment by some companies I've worked with, but honestly, I love being a temp. Anytime I get bored, I can change jobs, within reason. So I've tried a bit of everything. That, and I like to collect a piece of high-vis from every company I've enjoyed working for. Now, recently I've been doing nights, which I don't mind at all, but it's been a bit stormy, and another one of the temps has come down with the flu. They showed up to work dying. I asked what they were doing there when they so obviously were sick, and they proceeded to tell me that after contacting the boss to say they were ill, the boss apparently called nonstop and basically harassed them into going. I absolutely loathe people like that. He is a recent addition to our company and constantly contacts the team, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, to check that we're going in, etc., which is annoying to say the least when you're trying to sleep during the day. But to berate an employee into working when they feel so terrible is not only wrong, but illegal, especially in these bizarre times. Add the fact that this was the coldest, windiest, and wettest night we'd had so far, and I was unimpressed. Side note, I've been having a lot of contact with lawyers over the last couple of years, helping my partner out, and I'm an incredibly fast reader. I hadn't thought much about the job we were doing before this, but the next day, I went online and downloaded every manual that had anything to do with the company we were currently contracted into, and the job we were doing. It was over 1,000 pages of mostly acronyms and legal jargon, but anything that didn't make sense or that had a loophole, I took note of and contacted the traffic authorities and current contracted company for clarification. After just a couple hours, I contacted my office to see where boss and big boss were, and luckily, they were both in, unheard of, and were happy to wait 30 minutes for me to come down. Big Boss knows me pretty well by now and knows I'll try anything once just for the experience. I've worked through broken bones and all sorts of personal tragedy just for the sake of the job and the people I'm working with. But if something rubs me the wrong way, I will be the most spiteful, petty, evil thorn you have ever met. Newish boss wasn't ready for it. I started by saying I didn't like how coworker was treated, and during a pandemic, I thought that was unreasonable. Coworker is barely 18 and definitely felt bullied into coming in when they shouldn't have, putting the rest of us in danger of getting sick. Boss defended his crappy actions, and I let him ramble until he was done, then gave them 28 instances where the job we were doing was in violation of our country's employment and/or traffic laws, and a further 14 violations of the current company's regulations. Big Boss just laughed, knowing there was no way I was working with that many violations, and Newish Boss wasn't getting his "all my workers went to work with no problems this month" bonus. After all this, it took almost 2 weeks to sort out and fix all legal issues, by which time all the other temps had other work to be doing, and absolutely none of them wanted to go back to that particular site. And our contracts all state we absolutely do not have to undertake any job offered to us if we don't want to. I took a week off just for craps and giggles, and Newish Boss is still learning who he can screw with and who he can't. I was having a beer with one of the owners a few days ago, and he said newbie groans loud enough to be heard next door when I call, which is a little sad because if he hadn't tried to cut corners, he wouldn't have gotten screwed so badly. Oh well, everyone learns on the job. This week his lesson just happened to be, don't mess with my team. Sometimes we can sacrifice our time for the greater good, but we shouldn't be sacrificing our health for money. I've mentioned this many times in previous videos, but I truly believe that when kids go through high school, they should be given employment law training. At least some basic information for their particular area, so that when a boss tries to pull crap like this, they can come back and say, I know my rights, I don't have to come in, have yourself a great day. Our next story today comes to us from Blaze 5G. Only do as instructed? No problem, boss. Let's jump right in. So this happened a few years ago at the worst job of my life. 7 months of torture, not sure why I stayed so long. Backstory, I started my first help desk IT job being the only other IT staff apart from the network director, my boss. The first day on the job, boss was on vacation for a week on a cruise. I was left alone to take care of IT issues for a company with roughly 400 employees with 5 different locations in different states. Boss had told me to contact him on Skype if I had any issues. The first day, an accountant lost Wi-Fi connection, so I did the Windows troubleshoot problems, and it fixed her issue in less than a minute. Couple hours passed and boss checked in and asked me how things were going. I responded, great. Accountant had a Wi-Fi issue, but I fixed it. Boss asked how did I fix it, and I told him. He got upset because I should have asked him how to fix it or what I was going to do before attempting the fix. Bear in mind, he was taking approximately an hour between responses when I had asked him questions earlier in the day, Guess I should have had the accountant twiddle her fingers for an hour until he responded. Malicious compliance. Boss came back from vacation and had implemented a rule where I email a timesheet to him what I did every 15 minutes while at work. We were having a slow day, and obviously I hadn't learned my lesson from the first incident. There was a stack of old desktops and monitors thrown down in a corner near my cubicle. I thought to myself, let me take the initiative and get these stacked up neatly and notate their serial numbers for our inventory to try and impress the boss. At the end of the day, I put that in my timesheet and emailed boss. On my way home, boss calls me. OP, what is this I see in your timesheet about sorting desktops and monitors? Told him it was a slow day, so I did it while I had free time. Needless to say, he got extremely upset. Got reamed out how he told me already not to do anything unless he asked. Tried to make my case, but he wasn't having it. Boss told me I should only do what he tells me to do and nothing else. The next day, still fuming about how unreasonable boss was, I clocked in and told him I had arrived. He said I should research Microsoft Teams. It was just released and he wanted to roll it out to the entire company instead of them using Skype. Aye, Captain. To Google I went and researched all there is to know about Microsoft Teams. When Teams was just released, it didn't have much features, so I had a full grasp of how it works in 1.5 hours. For the rest of the day, I didn't hear a peep out of him. Well, that must mean he wants me to research Teams all day. Of course, I didn't. I was on Reddit for the next 6.5 hours. At the end of the day, I emailed my timesheet. 8:45 to 5:45, researched Microsoft Teams. Ring ring. Who could be calling me right after work? Oh look, it's boss. Hey boss, what's going on? Silence. Then boss says, you mean to tell me you spent all day researching Teams? Yes I did. As per our conversation yesterday, you told me only to do what you instructed me to do. That's what I did, boss. I didn't mean it literally. If you had nothing else to do, you should have asked. But boss, I did have something to do. I had to research Teams like you instructed. And boy, did I research it. You better make sure you know everything there is to know about Teams. Oh, I do, boss. See you tomorrow. He must have been fuming because he has a short temper. I slept good that night and was one of the few nights I slept well during that 7-month period. The only other nights I slept well was my other malicious compliance quite a bit. I think I stayed so long because I was at the point of just not caring if I got fired, so I didn't get upset anymore. Just collected my paycheck and put in 0 effort. It was commented down below that people wouldn't have even contacted the boss when they came in. They would have just sat at their desk awaiting boss's instructions, and then at the end of the day put it in their timesheet as Monday 8:45 a.m. to 5:45 p.m. awaiting boss's instructions, and the same thing for the rest of the week. Could you imagine the boss looking at the timesheet and going, you did nothing? Well, yeah boss, you didn't tell me to do anything. Our next story today comes to us from X Marshmallow. Extra cheese? You got it. Let's jump right in. This happened a few weeks ago, but I was scrolling through the sub and thought of it again, so I figured I'd share. Nothing crazy, but still fun for me. I work at a fairly popular buffet-style pizza place, where you can request any order with any toppings, and we'll put it on the line. This means I, as the cook, am very used to getting strange, gross, and annoying pizza requests. This was different though. We have multiple specialty sauces that we can use for pizzas, including an Alfredo one. Now, for those of you who don't know, cheese sauce plus normal cheese plus oven equals soup. I was always told to be very careful with how much cheese I add to an Alfredo pizza, because even a little too much can make it basically inedible. This particular day, I had a customer come in requesting an Alfredo pizza with extra cheese. No problem, I add more than normal but still not enough to make it soupy, and throw it in the oven. It goes up on the line, and without even taking a slice, the customer tells me there isn't enough cheese. I try explaining that adding any more would make it so soggy you can't even lift a slice, but they were having none of it, and very angrily demanded I make them a new one. And do it right this time, I don't have all day. It's pizza bro, chill. We were fairly slow at this point, and I had done all the to-go orders I needed to complete, so cue malicious compliance. I told our server that there would be a special pizza coming out, and I wanted to deliver it myself. She's confused, but basically just says do what you want. I go to my station, put on the sauce, and absolutely destroy the thing with cheese. It looked like a snowy mountain peak, beautiful, terrifying, and probably very detrimental to our food sales cost. Oh well. The pizza comes out and it's more liquid than solid, but I managed to cut and plate it with minimal losses. I bring the entire tray to his table and set it down, a huge smile on my face. Mr. Huffy still looks angry and exclaims the usual, "Finally," and I walk behind the counter to watch. It was even better than I'd hoped. As soon as he picked up the slice, one-handed, a rookie mistake, an avalanche of hot cheese sauce spilled down the front of his shirt, making it look like multiple angry babies attacked him with vomit. He starts yelling and manages to smack his hand down on the tray, flipping it and further covering himself in chunky hot nastiness. My server and I are laughing so hard, we need to go into the walk-in so other customers won't hear us. He never came in again. And yes, I cleaned the table afterward. Our janitor was a sweet old man, and it wouldn't have been fair to leave it for him. OP, I'd say you covered all your bases. You made it the way it should have been made first, they didn't like it. You made it the way they wanted it, gave it to them, and enjoyed the glorious fallout. And then you even cleaned up for your buddy the janitor. That's pretty awesome and absolutely gains my respect. Our last story today comes to us from Loca Tech. No rest for the wicked. You can't give yourself a weekend off. Let's jump right in. So I've been working at this gas station car wash for about 2.5 years. No, gas stations don't pay very well. So I actually have 2 part-time jobs. That's the way it is. With the cost of living in this city, you're either rich or you work 2 jobs. The way I manage that is, at the gas station, I work a few nights graveyard shift, on it right now, and weekends, since most folks want Saturday and Sunday off. One nice thing about those shifts is, I usually work alone. I like to think the management knows and trusts me to handle anything, especially on weekends when it can get pretty crazy. Lately, I've been given the task of training new hires, but this one gal, I don't think she's gonna work out. She's, how shall we say it, lazy Lucy. Look, I'm not quick to judge people, but when she actually bragged that at her other graveyard job, she sleeps on duty, then I didn't have high hopes. We've worked together for a few weekend shifts now, with her taking off early because, "You're here, so I don't have to stay all day, right?" Well, whatever, we weren't going to work together in the future anyway. I'd heard that she was going to be part of the staff at a different, bigger location. Last week, Lucy was off the schedule, so I assumed that she'd been placed at the other gas station. But this weekend, she was back on the same shift with me. More training perhaps, but okay, I could use the help on those hustle days. Saturday, I go in for the afternoon shift, and the morning coworker I was relieving says Lucy has been there already, a few minutes ago, and then just left. When Lucy had heard that I was coming in too, she announced that 2 people weren't necessary, and promptly gave herself the day off. WTF? Of course, I contacted the manager because this was getting ridiculous. After talking to Lucy, the manager gave me the whole story. Lucy was supposed to work at the other gas station, but there had been a slight schedule printing mix-up, what with Lucy being new and all. While it's understandable if maybe she went to the wrong place, but why didn't she call or head over to the right location? Answer, because she didn't want to. Lucy said that the other station was too busy and there was too much work to do. I'm not making that up. That's a direct quote. Why does she think we hired her? Reasonably, the manager had listened to Lucy's explanation for not working with me on Saturday, that 2 people weren't necessary, so the manager asks me, "Do you want to come in tomorrow or would you like it off and Lucy will cover for you?" Really? I haven't had a Sunday off since I started working here. So I said, sayonara and see you on Monday. And now Lucy is scheduled for every weekend at that busy location for as long as she plans on working for this gas company, which shouldn't be too long. OP, if you have to continue working with this person, make sure you start documenting everything. Cover your butt, because there's going to be more malicious compliance, and she might even try and get some revenge. Of course, if there is an update to the story, we'd love to hear it. Check out all 5 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.